had an experience recently that left me shaken. I can't disclose details, but it was a situation where I overstepped a boundary, which in turn is leading me to rethink how I go about my content. It's funny though that it should happen while I'm working on promotional material for the song The Chambers of a Broken Heart, as it turns out that, over time, I'd forgotten what the song was originally about. You see, the inciting incident that inspired the song was also a situation where I'd gone too far. All of us need to be authentic. However, it's difficult when simply being ourselves puts us in situations where we end up feeling feelings of shame and remorse over actions that apparently were wrong, even though to us they may not have been. The truth is, all of us have our limits in different places, and it is important to build up awareness of this so that we can then calibrate our actions around different scenarios and situations. You're not always going to get it right, but by keeping yourself open to the fact that other people's boundaries may not be the same as yours, you mitigate risks and therefore have a better chance of avoiding feelings of shame and wrongdoing in the future. Be yourself is good advice, but I also believe it is incomplete. It is an effort, but the truth is we need to be the best versions of ourselves. We need to be engaged and we need to be mindful. Awareness doesn't undermine who we are. In fact, it makes you stronger and more likely to be appreciated by those who are around you.
When booking studio time, it is vital that you go in prepared and that you know how to go about those sessions. You need an end goal in mind. You need to know what the finished song is going to sound like. Indeed, a great way of going about this is by recording demos. And it doesn't matter how rudimentary these demos are. The demos I recorded for the Silent Size sessions, I did them on Audacity. And they sound very lo-fi, very rudimentary, you know? However, going to a studio and working with professionals, I knew that they would be able to get the best sound for my song. And so it didn't really matter what I brought to the table sonically. What was important was that I knew the parts and I knew the arrangement of the song. What's interesting about Chambers specifically is whereas a song like You're the Inspiration, where if you listen to the demo and you listen to the song, there's basically no change. Every part is just translated from the demo straight to the final recording. Chambers of a Broken Heart did have some interesting differences, and the biggest one being the bass. The song starts with an intro, but when we get into the meat of the song, there's that heavy riff at the start. You've got a rhythm guitar playing a riff, and then you've got a lead guitar which kind of does this and then plays this really cool, what we call a minor 7 chord over the top. But you'll get the main rhythm guitar, that riff, will continue into the verse. Initially, the bass simply played the same riff as that guitar. And it was actually Joe, the producer, who turned around to me and said, I think you could do something different here. And at first he tried to kind of hum what he meant, and then he took the bass off me and kind of played what it was he had in mind. It's interesting because Joe himself comes very much from a blues background, and that's the kind of music that he's really into. But when he showed me this kind of although I could hear the bluesiness of what he has in mind, in this rock context, it reminded me of the band Rage Against the Machine, and it added this other component to the song. I think it's a really interesting layer, and something that I wouldn't have come up with personally. And so I thank Joe for that.
It brews more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to make an announcement regarding my music and therefore this channel. I have a lot of gratitude to Joe, who was the producer and engineer on the 3 tracks you've heard already, plus 2 more. Never Gonna Lose It and I Should Know Better, which will complete the Silent Size in the Dark EP. I previously announced it would be an album, and I do still want to make an album. I have other tracks still sitting around ready to go, and they will now form a new project which I will likely put out in the new year. Thank you to everyone who has followed me on this journey, and I really hope to see you continue with me as I release more music going into the future. As always, you can like, you can subscribe, all that jazz, and I hope to see you again in another video. Take care.